Happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org and this show in particular. Correct me if I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norm, and thrilled to be here tonight with Dorna Schroeter.
Hello.
Hi, Dorna. How you doing? Thanks for coming.
Great. Happy to be here.
Well, so nice to have you. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of months. I met you at an open house.
Yes, we did.
At Chancellor Livingston Elementary School there, and you were tabling for whom?
Climate Smart Rhinebeck.
Climate Smart Rhinebeck.
One of the organizations I volunteer with.
Oh, that's nice. And who are they, and what do they actually do? It sounds like they have something to do with climate.
Yes, they do. There's a number of different components to Climate Smart. One is to organize events, educational experiences to learn about the climate and the impact humans are having on the climate and some of the things, behaviors, changes that we can make to maybe shift the direction we're going in. But also, Rhinebeck has, I think it's bronze status.
Oh, I just saw that.
Yes. And you can get bronze, silver, and gold. We're working on the silver level. The way you get to the next level is to work on different projects, to perform different functions, to accomplish certain goals that will then make Rhinebeck, or the village of Rhinebeck, I should clarify, not the town, we're the village of Rhinebeck, more climate effective, less intrusive on the climate, so that we're producing less climate emissions.
Well, that sounds fabulous. And Climate Smart Rhinebeck, is it really just this local? It's Rhinebeck?
It is something that New York State has organized. So there are a number of municipalities across the state that are either bronze, many are bronze, some are silver, and a few are gold. So it's the goal of New York State to obviously reduce our climate emissions.
Right.
And this is one of the avenues to do that.
And I'm guessing it's easier for smaller towns or villages like ours than for, like, say, White Plains or New York City.
Perhaps. I'm not sure.
Right.
You know, it's I think there's challenges on all levels, no matter what the size of the municipality is, because these are actions that are really changing our systems, changing our behaviors, changing basically the way we think and do things. So it is something that takes time, no matter what the size of the municipality is.
Okay. And what are some of the actual changes? And who do you how do you affect them? Do you lobby the local government? Do you educate people? All of the above?
All the above.
Right.
For instance, I'm also on the Village Compost Committee. Most people don't realize that the throwing away of organics into the landfill, they do not biodegrade. They don't break down. They actually rot. And the process of rotting produces methane, which is a really stronger climate gas than carbon dioxide. So one of our goals is to reduce the amount of organics that go into the landfill.
And can people harvest the methane out of those big landfills?
I believe that some places do. I can't speak to that, but I do believe that some places do.
Right, I drive by some of them. They have these big white pipes sitting up, but they don't go to anything.
They're not going to anything.
And I guess that's just to let the
putting it
gas
out to the atmosphere.
Right.
Yes.
And I always think, like, well, couldn't they just collect that?
Agreed, but you have to set up a whole system to do that. And, there's cost to that. There's, you have to have some place to bring it to for use. So again, we have to look at all of our systems and determine how we have to change them and then make those changes. But it takes time.
And what have been some of the successes of Climate Smart Rhinebeck?
Well, the village compost.
Okay.
And we have that.
And you found a place for that eventually?
Yes, we are working on that right now.
And with a hope to be up and running when?
Hopefully by the spring.
Okay. And it'll be just for the village first?
Yes.
And then eventually for...
We'll see. We're still working on growing the program.
Right. And are there, for Climate Smart Rhinebeck, are there other things, other initiatives that are close to realization?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. I haven't been very involved in the past couple of months. Oh, we had the EV event
Oh, right.
in was it
remember.
in September
Yeah,
at the
maybe.
library, where people were able to come down and check out the EVs. Maybe, they would learn more about them, and hopefully
Uh-huh.
the next time they want to buy a car, think about either an EV or a plug-in hybrid rather
Right.
than a gas-powered car.
And I got to ask, do you drive one of those?
I'm working on that.
And what does that entail? I mean, because for me, it's like, well, I don't have money to make that kind of change right now.
Well, that's part of it, but what I'm looking at is how is the technology evolving. So I want to wait just a little bit further, maybe into next year, to see where the changes have happened, what automobiles are available, and perhaps make a purchase next year. But I drive so little these days that from a sustainability
great
perspective, do I buy a new car? Because that entails a lot of
Right.
resources that go into the making of the car, energy that goes into the making of the car. So, when we did an evaluation many years ago on the purchasing of cars, it actually was more sustainable, if you're not driving very much, to not replace your car right away.
Right. Huh. So are there particular improvements in EV or plug-in hybrid technology that you're hoping to see before you dive in?
Well, certainly battery life.
Right.
And there are a lot of issues when you look at it from a sustainability perspective, because you can't just look at, it's reducing the amount of emissions. You also want to look at, what goes into the production of the battery?
Right.
And there are a lot of rare earth minerals that are rare. And who's mining them? Are they mined in a sustainable way? Are they mined in a way that doesn't harm the workers? So there's a lot of aspects to the sustainability
Right.
that one must consider.
Right.
So I'm looking at battery life. I'm looking at what else? I'm just sort of comparing all the different vehicles.
Right. Let me ask, you might not know this, but I'm curious, in terms of like batteries, a lot of them come from third world countries where they're really getting taken advantage of by first world need for
Yeah.
their product.
Yeah.
They're not always being treated fairly.
That's right.
Is
That's
there
right.
a website that you go to sort of like figure that out? Because I'm sure not all lithium or whatever comes from the same place, and some must be better places to get lithium from.
Well,
I mean, if it's lithium, if that's even the active battery
ultimately,
ingredient.
they're going to be moving away from lithium, but I don't know enough about the batteries to speak to them intelligently.
Right.
And there may be a website, and I can't think of one right now,
Right.
off the top of my head.
Sorry, go on.
No, that's right.
And are there other websites that you refer to to help you understand the intricacies of your choices as an American consumer and what you can do? Because it's not always obvious to people what the embedded energy costs are in various things.
Yes,
And-
there are. I don't have them right at the
Rats.
top of my
There
I didn't
goes
bring
my
them. You didn't tell me to
follow-up
bring
question.
those.
Thanks for nothing. Well, so have you always been interested in sustainability and?
Yeah. Even as a young child,
Uh-huh.
I really was very focused on the natural world and
Right.
the impact. I remember as a child saying something to my mother like, what happens when the atmosphere fills up with all the pollution?
Right.
I really stumped her. She didn't quite know what to do with this child.
And where was this that you were a child?
I was born and raised here in the Hudson Valley.
Oh, nice.
My parents were in High Woods, between Kingston and Saugerties.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, Saugerties and Woodstock.
Right.
When I was born. And then we ended up in Stone Ridge, and that's where I spent my teenage years.
Oh, nice.
But I spent a lot of time coming over to Rhinebeck. It was my favorite place. In fact, I loved it so much, I asked my parents if we could move over here.
And did they?
No, we stayed in Stone Ridge.
Okay. But eventually you did make it over here.
I did.
Now, High Woods, I believe they've got a huge development that's planned for over there. You know about this?
No, I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
It's called, I forget, it was called Woodstock something. It was like 400 or 500 acres back in the woods there, because there's a lot of woods.
Is it near Opus 40?
No.
Okay. I
No.
don't know. Because we were
But
living
I mean, close enough.
about
I mean,
2
it's
miles
all
from
sort
Opus
of right
40.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there's a lot of development going on in the valley.
So you went to, where'd you go to high school? From bouncing around from Saugerstock to Stone Ridge and stuff.
John A. Coleman High School.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
which
whole-
is no longer open, sadly. It
Oh,
was
it's
a great
not?
school when I was there. It was such a wonderful school.
It had a
in the
great
70s.
reputation.
Great reputation, great programs, sports programs. It really was fabulous when I was there.
Yeah, lots of my kids' friends went there, and their parents were all very happy with it.
Yeah, yeah. I really am very happy that I went there. I feel like it gave me direction moving forward.
Uh-huh. And were you raised Catholic? It's a Catholic school, right?
It is a Catholic school, and yes, I was Catholic, but it was a lot of students came there that weren't necessarily Catholic
Right.
because of the reputation of the educational quality, as well as all the different programs that they offered at the time.
Right.
I mean, we had a fabulous children's theater, just fabulous program.
And were you involved in theater?
A little bit. You know, it was fun. I didn't do any of the acting. I did the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Uh-huh. That's fun. Well, that's fun too. And then you went away to college somewhere?
I did. I went to the College of St. Rose and to be a
Which is
teacher.
Albany area?
Albany.
Okay.
And that's where I was introduced to this thing called outdoor education, which has morphed into environmental education and sustainability. So I first learned about it in college, and it just spoke to me. I just knew that that's what I was going to be doing. And I came home one weekend and told my parents, and they were like, "How are you going to make a living?"
Right.
And it was even worse when I told them I was going to get my master's in outdoor education and curriculum. And again, they said, "Yeah, but how are you going to make a living?"
And how and where'd you get your master's? Same place?
The University, Northern Colorado in Greeley.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I went out there. I wanted to go out west, and they had a great program. And just, again, it just, I knew that's who I was.
And they also, I mean, it seems to me sort of out west, especially that part of the country in Colorado, they had sort of a jump start on the environmental movement. When I was a kid, they called it just ecological movement.
Sure, the
ecology.
70s, the first, Earth Day, all of that happened back then, yes.
Yeah. So was this place that you went, that was the University of Northern
In
Colorado?
Yeah.
Did they have special programs in outdoor education?
They had a master's degree in outdoor education, and I had a minor in curriculum and instruction because I wanted to stay with the education.
Well done for what you wanted to do. And were there many other options at that point in time?
Not at all. I would love to go to college today. There are so many fabulous
Right.
degree programs, just so much more out there.
Right.
I just, when I would be hiring staff for my program, I would look at their degrees and say, "Oh, I'd like to go there. I'd like to go there."
Right.
Yeah.
And your parents might not ask that question these days. I mean, it seems to be kind of a growth industry.
It is. It certainly is. It's certainly not the best paying industry, but there's a lot of people, young people especially, who are very passionate about the field. And
Right.
so I think passion is so important in your work. If you don't have passion, it's really hard to find the joy in your work. And so many of the young people I hired had that. And I've seen some of them, now they're out, they've been out for years and years because I
Uh-huh.
was at the in my program 38 years, and I see some of the amazing things that they're doing.
That's great. So you said your program, what was your program?
Well, I was hired.
And did that follow right after grad school?
I had a job. I got an instructional job at Putnam Westchester BOCES. They had a small outdoor education program.
Okay.
One of 3 BOCES, I think, in the state that had an outdoor education program. And I happened to be in the right place at the right time because the director of that year decided that she was going to leave. I happened to know all the programs and understood, how the program worked. And without a whole lot of experience, I got the directorship, what was a coordinator position at the time. And so I became coordinator of what was called the outdoor education program that morphed into the Center for Environmental Education at Putnam Westchester BOCES in 1982. And when I took over there, I think we had 6 programs and we served 6,000 kids. And no, it was 8 programs and 6,000 kids. And over the years, again, I was just really very, very fortunate. There was a lot of creativity going on. There was a lot of innovation going on. And I just kept adding programs as I hired new staff. They brought in new ideas and new programs. I think our highest year, we served 50,000 students.
Uh-huh.
And when I left, we had 84 different programs that we offered.
And what were some of those? What kind of jobs did the kids who graduated from that go into?
Well, it's not a program like a typical BOCES program.
Uh-huh.
We offered programs, one-day programs to the district. So mostly elementary teachers signed up their students, and they would come to our center. So we had
gotcha.
nature center programs,
Uh-huh.
and the students would come out for a day and spend the day maybe doing forest ecology or pond ecology. We had a wonderful historical cemetery. We did a cemetery program. We did a team building program. We had all kinds of different programs there.
I see.
And then I introduced the idea of in-school programs, and in a couple years after I became director, and then that grew and evolved. That was a big one because the districts didn't have to pay for transportation. So the staff would go out to the schools, and that was a really, really important component to the program over the years especially. And then there was a wonderful, innovative program called the Voyage of the Mimi.
The Voyage of the what?
The Voyage of the Mimi. And
The
it
Mimi?
was Mimi.
Mimi, okay.
It came out of Bank Street.
Okay.
And what they did was they had a storyline about a ship captain who, the ship was hired by a research crew. And there's a couple scientists were going out and spending the summer studying whales. And the ship captains had a grandson who was having some troubles. And so
This is the story.
Yes. So he was sent, and this very disgruntled young man had to spend his summer on this ship with these scientists and his grandfather, and he wasn't happy about it. Well, the actor who played this young man was Ben Affleck.
Oh,
he
nice.
was 11 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
But so
And
there
did he
was-
grow up around there, Westchester, Putnam, or?
No, this takes place. This whole voyage,
Oh,
takes
right.
place up in Cape Cod.
Oh, I gotcha,
Cape Cod
okay.
area. So the way the program was set up was it was a half-hour storyline. It was fictional,
Uh-huh.
and something always happened. Like they ran out of water, and they had to figure out how to distill water, or they had a problem with the whales, so they went to the New Bedford Whaling Museum. There was also an amazing place up there called the New Alchemy Institute, where they were doing innovation around growing food in greenhouses and different types of, they called it the Ark. They had biodomes, and so they spent time there. So, and they went to Plymouth Plantation. So the first half hour was a story, and then the second half hour was the science behind it. What they did, they would go to one of these places and learn about the science. So one of the teachers came to me and said, "Hey, what can we do with Voyage of the Mimi?" I said, "Cape Cod, 4 hours away. Let's go there. Let's go to the sites." So that became a real popular program for a while. I would take anywhere from 60 to 200 kids up to Cape Cod. And in the first couple of years, it was so amazing because we went to these sites, and the kids would see the people who were in the videos, which was really exciting.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was
That's
really exciting.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Celebrities.
Yes, exactly.
But presumably not Ben Affleck.
No, not Ben Affleck. But the Captain Granville, he was a celebrity for a while, and
Love that.
they would have Voyage of the Mimi events, and schools would come, and he would be there with his boat, and so it was a great thing for him. So that was a popular program for a while, and then
love
I
that.
also added. I had a chance to go down to the Florida Keys and swim with the dolphins, and it was an amazing experience for me. I said, "Man, I'd love to do that again. How can I do that? Maybe I could run a program down there." So
you'd sort of worked this out on how you
I
can
did.
get to go to fun places and do fun
I
things.
ended up developing this program that we took high school students down over spring break and middle school students down over Columbus Day weekend. And the high school program ended up being a 200 college level program. I had biologists working with us. One of my friend's husbands, he was a marine biology professor at Vassar, and we had all these great programs. So we'd go down and spend a week and learn about the entire tropical ecosystem from the Everglades all the way down to the Keys. And
Wow.
we'd go out snorkeling or diving on the reef. Many of the kids became dive certified while they were down there.
Wow.
We go into the Everglades on the airboat and study that whole water system. We study the geology. We would learn fish ID. So it was a really amazing program, and I have to say that it transformed the lives of many, many young people.
I'll bet.
And
That
I
sounds
had-
spectacular.
I had kids, siblings they waited in line till they were old enough to come on the trip.
How old did they have to be?
Well, they could start in middle school, sixth
Okay.
grade, and then they could come, right up through senior year in high school. And I had some students who came every year in high school. they would. I started to have to develop. I had an alumni program. Then I had to develop an alumni 2 program, alumni 3 program, alumni 4 program, because the kids would come back year after year, and then I had some students that would come back and they would help teach. One student in particular, he was great. He ended up going to college down in, actually a couple of them went to college down in Florida, and they would come down on spring break and teach my classes for me.
That's so good.
It was great.
So you're sitting in a chaise on the beach, sipping that pina colada.
Not really. It was a lot of work, and it was a little scary. I mean, especially for my BOCES, because I'm down there in the, out on the water, scuba diving, snorkeling, in boats with all these students, and we had lots of chaperones. But it's still a scary thing for a school district administrator.
And what was the number one fear? I guess drowning or...
Well, the safety of the kids. Sharks, drowning, kids getting injured. And believe me, I visited the hospital several times. But
now, there's I think I heard one of the only underwater national parks down there.
John Pennekamp State Park. Yes,
Right.
we would take the students there. They also had the kids who were certified divers. They went into an undersea habitat and spent a half a day in an undersea habitat.
So do you hear from many of these kids over the years?
I do. And many of them are so grateful for having that opportunity.
What a fucking treat that must be.
It was incredible. In fact, one young man, he was great. He was just so much fun. And he was definitely focused on being an engineer. And that trip changed the way he looked at the world from just an engineer to what is my role in the world? What is sustainability? How do we impact change in the world? And he went on to engineering school, but also focused on green energy. And he now works for, is it SpaceX?
Oh, right.
And the
Sure.
Elon
What's
Musk.
his name's thing?
He developed the solar panel system for the spacecrafts that are going up there.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible?
What a treat.
It's, really
So
amazing.
guess you hear from kids like every once in a while. They track you down on the internet or...
I'm friends on Facebook with many of them, and I love seeing what they're doing. And many of them still, I get emails or I get Facebook messages from them just saying, oh, I remember this, and here's a picture I just found of this trip. Remembered when this happened. It was really profound. It was. I feel so blessed to have had that opportunity to provide that experience for these young people.
Right. I mean, it's a form of richness to be able to help so many kids become interested in all these different things.
And the funny thing, we'd come back and the parents would be like, who's that kid? That's not my kid. And I'd get phone calls from them. It's like, my kid's cleaning up the dishes after dinner. How'd that happen? Because they weren't served. We stayed at a small motel.
Right.
And they had to clean up after themselves. They had to help with food preparation and bringing food out. So it was I said, we're a family. We are going to work together. We're going to play together. We're going to learn together. But the only way it's going to work is if we do this together. And that was the rule.
And did you do that once a year or a couple of times a year?
I did it. We did it spring break for high school, Columbus Day weekend for middle school. And then some of the students would say, well, can't we do something like over the summer? So I ran a couple summer camps down there as well. So a couple of years I was down there 3 times a year.
And your job down there was like a teacher's year, or did you work 12 months a year?
Oh, no, I was an administrator. I worked 12 months. There was no way that we could have operated that program on, a 10 months.
And
we also ran summer camps as well in the program.
So you're busy all the time?
All the time.
And you did that for how many years?
I was a coordinator for 38 years, and I retired in 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
So that's not that long ago.
It isn't.
And you've been sitting around sipping the pina coladas since you
retired. Yeah, I find ways of keeping busy.
Yeah, I've heard. Well, you do the Climate Smart Rhinebeck. You also do a lot of work with Sinterklaas. What do you do with them?
I coordinate the Ask Me Ladies. And the Ask Me Ladies, we're like the information center. We're the merchandise center. We're the, hey, I lost my kid. Hey, I lost my parents center. Or lost and found. So we have a table at the Beak. And we have a table at CVS. And
where's the first table?
The Beekman Arms on the lawn. And we sell merchandise which helps to raise money because Sinterklaas isn't free. None of us gets paid for it, but we have to pay all the artisans, and there's so many. Just the renting of all the Johnny on the spots,
Right.
and there's so many other things that go into the budget, and we have to pay for. So we have to raise money for Santa Claus.
And does the town pitch in for that?
I'm not privy to that side of it.
Right.
I just do the merchandising. So we sell the stars. This year we made 130 headbands, our Ask Me Lady crew,
Right.
which are beautiful headbands that feature the ant and sort of woodsy and flowery, and we sell those. We sell the flags, we sell buttons, and we
Right.
also have the programs there for people. People stop by with questions, and what I love about it, we've been doing it for so long. We have kids that stop by, and we've watched them grow up over the years, and
Right.
they always create their own costumes. So they come, look at my costume this year. So I started to take pictures and post on social media. Like, I actually have adults that do that too. Look at the headpiece we made this year. So we have a great. What I like about this is that we have a rapport with the people that come.
And did you start doing that in 2018 when you retired, or started
No,
before that?
I started working with Santa Claus, I think, the second year. I attended the first year,
Okay.
and I volunteered the second year. And I think by the third year, I was coordinating the Ask Me Ladies.
And when was the first year?
Oh boy,
Yeah, sorry.
2007, I think.
Okay.
6, 7, somewhere around there.
Right.
It's been many years.
And how many Ask Me, did you say Ask Me Ladies?
Well, now we're Ask Me Lads and Ladies.
Ah.
Because we have some gentlemen that come and help us out.
I love that.
Yes.
So how many Ask Me Lads and Ladies are there?
It's probably about 30 on my list.
That's
and
a lot.
some of them volunteer the day of, and some of them like to come and like make the headbands beforehand. They help in different ways.
Huh. And how do people identify an Ask Me lad or lady?
We have a button that we wear that says Ask Me.
Uh-huh. And presumably you did that. You didn't just jump into the coordinator role, did you?
Yeah, I think I did. No, actually, no, the first year I helped out, and then the second year I became the coordinator. And when I first took it over, again, it was just a really small thing, but then we started to evolve the merchandising. It was more than just stars and programs.
Uh-huh.
So we started adding to it, and I put up a canopy, and then we started decorating it, and it just sort of morphed and grew.
And so is there some kind of training for the Ask Me Lads and Ladies? Like what to do with Smart Alex? Because right away I'm like, I'm going to ask them like the square root of 27. Or what.
Yeah, we do get some fun questions. And we've come up with some fun responses over the years. So in the orientation material, I list some questions and I list some fun responses.
I love
And don't
that.
ask me what they are because I can't remember them.
This is your other career as a joke writer.
No.
All right, so you do Climate Smart Rhinebeck, Sinterklaas. What else are you doing in your retirement?
Well, I'm also a biomimicry mentor, educator, and author.
Okay, biomimicry, mentor, it takes me a while to digest, educator and mentor. So let's start with what's biomimicry?
Bio, life, mimic to copy. So biomimicry is a very rapidly evolving discipline. And in biomimicry, we copy nature. We
Okay.
basically look at, it's the science of copying nature. We look at what makes an organism successful, whether it be a behavior or some type of structure. Because every organism has either a behavior or structure that enables them to survive. If they didn't have it, they wouldn't be able to survive. So a classic biomimicry example is, that pesky burdock seed that when you take a walk in the woods and you come out and you got those burdock seeds
Yeah,
on you, and most people curse them.
yeah.
Well, a particular gentleman back in the 40s did the same thing. His dog came out back from the walk covered in burdock seeds, and one day he said, why do they attach so easily, and yet I can also pull them off so easily? And he pulled out his handy-dandy microscope and looked, and lo and behold, at the end of each stem is a hook.
A hook.
Yeah, a hook. And so he thought about it for a while and said, so this hook enables this seed to attach. Why? Because Mama Burdock plant doesn't want all her seeds to fall right by her. She'd rather spread them around the forest. so that her seeds will go on through different parts of the ecosystem.
Right.
They all fell by her. She'd get a few plants, but not enough growth to really, to really continue.
It was just amazing.
So he said, attach. Took a while. It took 15 years, but he came up with this brilliant idea and brilliant innovation. And we all use it today. It's become part of our daily lives.
Okay, I'm dying to know.
Velcro. If you take a look at Velcro, it's got hooks on one side. It mimics the structure of the hooks.
Right.
And it connects to the loops on the other side.
Right. Which
So-
mimic my sweater that those things are always attaching to.
Exactly.
Or my fuzzy socks.
There you go.
Forget about it.
There you go. So that's an early example of biomimicry. And what's happened is it's been...
That's an amazing example.
It is. It's a really such a in-your-face example because everybody uses Velcro.
Right.
But now biomimicry is really completely integrated into so many, into education, into engineering, into architecture. And in fact, when I do a program on biomimicry for students, and I have a couple different programs that I do, I'll ask the question, so why do you care about biomimicry? Why should you care? Well, almost every single job is going to have some form of biomimicry into it, no matter what they do. And, I'll get questions, well, what about fashion? Well, biomimicry is already in the fashion industry. It's in the cosmetic industry. It's in the medical technology industry. Did
you have examples for all of these?
Yeah, I do show them in the program.
Okay.
For instance, if you want to talk about cosmetics, we produce color. Humans produce color through pigmentation,
Right.
which can be a very toxic process.
Mm-hmm.
Our clothes, the colors that are in our clothing. Right now, our clothes are made in Asia for the most part, and many of the rivers are very polluted because of the byproducts of the production of color for our clothing.
Right, the pigment.
So nature makes colors in other ways besides pigmentation. Nature makes color through structure. And if you look, and I know...
I see you looking around. Do you have a visual aid?
I do have a visual aid
Yay.
for you. So, and I know they can't see this on the radio, but you have to imagine,
Some
people can...
A lot of our viewers.
So you can see this beautiful morpho butterfly.
That's gorgeous.
Isn't that?
So it looks like a plain sort of butterfly. You turn it around, and it's iridescent. It's so pretty.
But what do you notice as I move it around? What do you notice about it?
Well, the iridescent nature changes. It gets a little bit dull at some
Okay.
angles and brighter at others.
Okay. You've seen, of course, we don't have great light in here, so
Yeah.
it's a little hard to really demonstrate this. Are you seeing any
different shades
Different shades. Are you seeing
Wow.
any purple in there?
Yeah.
That's because
Oh,
this.
Can I hold
yeah,
this?
Sure.
This is so pretty.
That's because that color is not produced through pigmentation. It's produced by structure. If you look at the butterfly wings under a high-powered microscope, the wings are not flat. It's made up of multiple structures. Some of the layers are thick, some are thin, some are far apart, some are close together. And depending on the array of the structures, some of the light spectrum is absorbed, so you don't see those colors. But some are reflected, and that's the color you see. And because of the layers, and they're all different, depths and sizes, that's how you get that iridescence.
Right.
So, could we make color the way nature makes color? And
Well,
so
let
it's
me-
called iridescence.
Right.
And they've done this in cosmetics. They now have cosmetics that actually don't have pigmentation in them, but they have put something in the cosmetic to give it structure, to give it layers,
Oh, my
little
goodness.
flecks. And so you can look at somebody wearing eyeshadow, and the eyeshadow might change based on
So
how the light hits it.
It'll absorb light at a particular wavelength and reflect light at another wavelength.
Yes, yeah. Mhm.
Which makes it seem to have a certain color.
That iridescence, and if somebody with this eyeshadow on them moves, or the lipstick moves, and the light hits them differently, the color's going to change. So you're seeing that
Sounds pretty cool.
and we figured out also how to do that in paint, and I'll show you. I brought some paint samples. You can see that how the colors change?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the same thing. So we have figured out how nature makes color through structure, and we're mimicking that in our color systems.
Right. So this is something I was talking about the other day. Somebody was talking about nature and nature this and nature that, and I said, well, so the way you're using the word nature, it's everything except humans.
Well, yes. However, there are a couple of examples, and they're early research examples, so I can't speak fully to them. But for instance, our red blood cells can squeeze and change shape and then pop back into shape in order to get through the narrow capillaries in our body.
Right.
And they also have a high carrying capacity. So researchers at Johns Hopkins, they're working on a design of nanovessels that will mimic the way the red blood cells are able to squeeze and change shape and then pop back into the correct shape in order to carry drugs more efficiently through the body. So that's mimicking our red blood cells.
Okay. So this is biomimicry from humans for humans.
Sure, we're nature too.
Yeah.
We really are. And they're also, looking at how to mimic human cartilage, which is an elastic tissue that's soft enough to cushion joints, but strong enough to resist, the compression that happens when we're running and jumping and moving around. And a team of researchers recently 3D printed some type of complex lattice structures that mimics how the cartilage is formed, in order to create some type of structure that is strong and resilient.
Right. I think I saw that they grew it in a lab or something.
Well, they're 3D printing this, so there could be other things as well. So we are nature.
Oh my goodness.
We really are. And so, yes, there's ways that we can also be mimicking.
So when something like that gets printed in 3D, it's being printed in some kind of plastic, polymer or something.
Well, and that's
interesting. I'm asking. I don't know.
It's a really important point, because we have to differentiate between bio-inspired and biomimicry. Bio-inspired will mimic the form or the structure.
Okay.
But it doesn't really mimic the whole aspect, the whole system. Because in nature, all of the organisms that are here, are here because, and successful, because they figured out how to work together within the ecosystem following the Earth operating principles. Producing no waste, using locally available materials, the least amount of materials possible. We haven't figured that out yet. But so in biomimicry, we're looking and saying, we want to mimic the structure, but can we do it in a way that uses the least amount of material possible, that doesn't produce pollution, that is circular so we can take it back into the system and reuse it the way nature does. But we also want to make sure that the people who are involved are fairly treated.
Or what?
The people who are involved in the production of it are fairly treated.
Right.
Not that it's been raised in produced in a sweatshop.
Right.
So we want all aspects of the system to work together in collaboration, in equity. So biomimicry looks at the whole system, whereas bio-inspired only looks at mimicking the structure. So Velcro is an example.
Right.
What's Velcro made out of? It's a polymer.
Right.
It's a plastic made out of oil. So it's not really biomimicry. It's bio-inspired. Can we make Velcro in a way that a material that's biodegradable and that could be reabsorbed into the system? So that's a lot of conversation is going on and a lot of research is going on in this way. And I have something else.
Oh, good.
that I wanna bring.
More visual aids. We've got a
For the poor people who
big
can't see.
bag of visual aids.
And I use these in my programs. So this is a big hit.
Okay. Looks like a backpack. Oh, cool. It looked like a regular backpack, and now it looks like a sort of armadillo skin or something.
Yes, it's a pangolin, which is related
Pangolin.
to, and it's
Okay.
called the pangolin backpack. And the reason I
That
wanted
is
to bring
so
it up
cool.
at this point is This company has gone a little further, moving towards biomimicry. So you can see these scales.
Yeah.
These scales are actually old truck and car tires that have been collected, cleaned, repurposed, and reused. So we're taking a waste and using it to make this, rather than going back in and mining the planet to get more materials to make
Right.
this. So the pangolin backpack
But often
is
there's a lot of energy that goes into like
Yes.
upcycling some kind of waste.
Yes, it certainly is. So there's no perfect system, but
Right.
part of biomimicry is learning how nature does things. How does nature manufacture?
This thing is
How-
gorgeous. What's the company that makes this?
It's called Cylus, Cylus, and it's online.
CYCLUS.
It's online. You can order them.
So I'm just thinking if people are listening along, they can go to Silas, probably
Yeah.
silas.com or something, and see this cool pangolin inspired,
Backpack.
bio-inspired.
And students, of course, get really excited when they see this, and they'll say, "Oh, can I order it?" And I'll say, "Yeah, you can." But the first thing you're going to look at is the price, because it is very expensive. But then we do a life cycle analysis and a cost analysis. This backpack will last a lifetime. In fact, I had done a biomimicry program for the BOCES, one of the BOCES tech programs. And it turned out one of the students fell in love with this backpack and went home and said, "This is what I want for Christmas." So she got it. Fast forward 10 years later, a young lady walks into my office for an interview for my assistant's position, and she's carrying this backpack. And she said, "I was in that class you told me about."
Oh, no way.
So she's 10 years later using this backpack, and she's still using it, and it's probably now 20 years later. So yes, it's expensive, but she never had to buy another backpack. So
Right.
how much money do you spend on a backpack per year? And then where does it end up? In the garbage. This is a lifetime usage, and so it's an investment.
Potentially lifetime, and there's no accounting for fashion.
Yeah, well, yes, that's true, but
That is so cool. And one of the things I love best about all this is you teaching kids to look at other considerations than just fashion. And that's the first thing. It looks really cool, but how long does it last? What are the energy costs that go into manufacturing and all of that?
yeah, most of us don't think about that. We just see
No.
something we like, we don't think about it. And there's two questions in sustainability. Where did it come from, and where's it going?
Right.
And we don't usually think about that. And, and another thing to say is, want versus need. Do I
Well,
really need it?
Teenagers
Or do
are
I
not
just want it?
Teenagers are not especially good at that.
I know. But I always bring it up with the students. And it's,
Right.
are they going to go home and say, "You know what, I'm not going to buy anything else"? But someday down the line, hopefully I've planted a seed to start to think a little differently, because that's what we
Right.
have to do. We can't keep buying stuff and then tossing it away.
And where do these students come from?
Well, what I'm doing now is I have a three-part program in biomimicry that
Okay.
I offer. It's a introduction to biomimicry, where I show them all these cool products and talk about, biomimicry and its impact on them and the world. Then I introduce them to what's called structure and function. What do we mimic? What are the structures? What are structures in organisms that we can look at? And what are their functions? And then we do a design challenge. So I introduce them to a design challenge that I've created in collaboration with the Biomimicry Institute. And what we end up doing is they're given a problem. It could be, and they get to choose one of three problems: too much water, too little water, or polluted water. They are given organism cards where they read each card and learn about the structures of that organism and what functions they perform. That organism, for instance, the baleen whale. The baleen whale has those strips of baleen hanging down, and that's the structure. What's the function? To filter. So what problem might that help to solve of those three?
So the assignment is to look at these things in nature and see what their function is and see what applications there are in the human world.
We'll look at the structure, and can we then mimic that structure in a human design? Because that's what we do in biomimicry.
Right.
So if you choose
That's fine. We're
polluted
thinking
water,
of like the fringe on a cowboy's jacket.
that would mimic, that might be something. Let's see, there's different like the peacock worm has little fringes
Right.
on the end of it.
Oh, no,
that
I was thinking
filter.
the baleen whale with their
Yeah,
things hanging
yeah,
down.
yeah. So what they end up doing is they work in teams, and they choose their problem. They look at these organisms.
Okay.
They come up with ideas to mimic the structures, and then they draw out their design ideas, and they present it. So it's a 3-part program, and I've done it in Hyde Park now. I think this is the 3rd or 4th year I've done it. The entire 6th grade is introduced to biomimicry. Then we do an activity on structure and function. Then I do a program on introducing them to the design challenge. And then on that Friday, all 260 6th graders are doing biomimicry design. It is just so inspiring,
Must be
engaging.
so much fun for
Oh
you.
my God, it is so exciting for me.
Now,
And-
are there competitions? Are there like design challenges for this somewhere?
Yes, actually, the Biomimicry Institute has a biomimicry youth design challenge, and it started on the college level. And I'm a member of the Biomimicry Institute's leadership team. So
Okay.
we would meet every other year and just talk about, how can we get this out? How can we get into the schools? What are some different program ideas?
It sounds like
And-
you're doing pretty well getting it into the schools.
Well, on a limited basis locally.
Right.
But they had the design challenge, and we said, why just keep it at the college level? Let's bring it down to the high school level. Let's bring it down to the middle school level. Let's bring it down to the elementary level. So we got it to the high school and the middle school level. So a teacher or, any individual, could be a club, an after-school program, could sign up to be what's called a coach, and then they could have a team. There's all kinds of wonderful curriculum material. They download a packet that is so rich with information on how to work with the students, teach them about biomimicry, how to do biomimicry design, and the group can submit a design challenge or a design, and there's a competition. I'm actually a judge for the middle school and the high school, and I have to tell you, you want to get inspired. I get so excited when I get the packet to look at, and I watch these students' videos. They are this generation is so different. They think differently. They think as designers. They think as problem solvers. They just inspire me in a way that I haven't been inspired in a long time. The ideas that they come up with. And the design challenge it's actually international now, I think.
That's
yes,
amazing.
This year was the first time.
And have you ever been a coach for these teams?
Actually, I did. In 2018, a group of parents here in Rhinebeck reached out to me and said, hey, we really want our kids to learn about biomimicry. They're not really do it in the schools. Could you spend a little time with us? I'm like, sure. So we did, and one thing led to another, and we ended up deciding to form a group that the two of the parents registered as coaches, and I worked with the students, and then they took over and they submitted a design, and we ended up taking first place on the middle school level. I was so excited.
That's amazing.
It really was.
And that was 2018?
I think it was 2018. Yeah.
That's spectacular.
Yeah.
So that must help sort of selling it into other
Yeah,
school
right
systems.
now, Hyde Park and Rhinebeck,
Uh-huh.
the 7th grade, Patty Dannerman, was 7th grade science teacher. She had me come in last year because they had a new innovation lab, and she wanted to start the lab off with biomimicry. And so I came in one day a week and worked with the students, and they ended up doing the mini design challenge on water. This year, instead of doing it over several weeks, we're going to do it just over a couple-day period. It's going to be in January. So the entire 7th grade team is going to be doing biomimicry for a couple days in January.
I love that. And I'm just guessing that all of the cool, fresh ideas sort of filter their way back up to the Biomimicry Institute and come back down to you and to the kids you're coaching and stuff.
Well, yes. I mean, they do. The way to there, you can go online and look at the winners,
Right.
and it's really inspiring. And they encourage the teams to look at some of the submissions from the previous years, because it
Right.
really does give the students ideas, but it also inspires them about possibilities.
Right. I guess my question is, some of those ideas that the students come up with must be really useful. And the Biomimicry Institute, I'm guessing, is headed by adults. It's like, wait a minute, here are applications the kids might have missed, and we're going to get this out into the world.
Well, on the college level, the team that wins on the college level are actually matched up with engineers and patent attorneys and everybody that needs to be
Gotcha.
involved. And their design is actually produced and put out on the market.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And how long have you been associated with the Biomimicry Institute?
Oh,
All right,
boy.
well, think about that.
Early 2000s, probably.
Okay. And was there something, a biomimicry incident, that made you say, wow, biomimicry, that's really interesting, that really sucked you into that? I mean, it's an interesting sort of specialization to get into.
The first time I heard about it was because the woman who introduced biomimicry to the world, Jeannie Benyus, had written a book. And someone said, you have to read this book. And again, like when I went to college and we learned about outdoor ed, I read the book and went, oh my gosh. What was so inspiring for me, it's solution-based thinking. It's not about the problems. It's about what solutions, what ideas can we come up with to solve the problem. And that is so inspiring because if you're only focusing on the problem, it's so overwhelming that people shut down. But when you focus on the opportunities, the innovations that can come out of this, and we're in a period of high innovation and high changes in the way we do things. I like to tell kids that they're going to be the engineers and the architects and the designers of the 21st century, and the world's going to look very, very different in the coming years than it looked when I was their age,
Right.
because of innovation. And so that's why it spoke to me, because it was just so much about solution-based thinking and so inspiring. When I pull out one of these case studies, and if I pull out the backpack or any of these other items, and I've got the these gecko tabs. You've got one of those where you can stick something on the wall and it doesn't fall. The command strips.
Oh, yeah.
But the problem is it's made with some type of adhesive, whereas this strip here mimics the way a gecko holds onto a wall.
Oh, my goodness. Let me see
So
this.
you can put it on a wall.
It's just a little hook.
Yeah, you can put it on a wall. Here, I'll put it on the wall for you. And it can hold a pound. And then you can just take it off and put it up in another spot.
So it's a just under 2-inch square piece of paper. You're pulling off the backing, and you're putting it on the wall. And now I want to find a 1 pound painting to hang from that. That's just spectacular. So you said you were a judge for the biomimicry contest, the Youth Design Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still do that?
Yes, I do.
Look at the smile. Such a huge smile. It's so delightful to see how much you delight in this work of yours.
Well, it just, again, is so inspiring to see the ideas that the young people have. And they're about innovation. They're about looking at solutions.
Right.
And they come up with some just amazing ideas.
And do they feel like, the clock's ticking on sort of the habitability of the earth for them and their generation and the next generation? Is that part of their motivation, you think?
I'm sure many of them do. I mean, there's some just ignore it. Some bury their head in the sand, and some say, hey, I'm gonna do something.
But some certainly, I don't know, which districts exactly you might find these people. Some certainly say oh no, climate change is not real. It's not a problem.
Yeah, there are some people that believe that.
And if you're talking to some of them, what are your first lines of argument?
I think often they say to me, well, the climate's been warming for hundreds and thousands of years.
Right.
And my response is, yeah, it has been. However, it's been warming over centuries. So ecosystems, organisms have time to adapt. Now it's warming over decades, and that doesn't give organisms and ecosystems time to adapt.
Right. Including humanity.
Including humanity. Yeah.
Oof. So I wanted to ask another thing about being judged. Somebody told me you were a judge for the biathlon in Lake Placid.
Oh,
Now that's where people
I wa-
cross country ski and shoot.
Shoot.
Is that right?
Yeah, I wasn't a judge. I was an official for the 1980 Winter Olympics biathlon.
An
the way
official.
yes, I was what's called a range communicator. So yes, it's biathlon is where you cross country ski and target shoot.
Okay.
And back in the 80s, we didn't have all this great digital communications. So the skiers would come in and they would shoot at targets on the range. And when a target was complete, I had to get my big Army heavy walkie-talkie and communicate to the butts, which was the tunnel underneath the targets, and say, target number 54 complete. They would lower the target by hand
Oh, boy.
and put new targets out in and then raise it up. And then I had to communicate to the lap, because if they miss however many targets they missed, they had to ski an extra loop. So I then had to communicate to the loop coordinator and say, okay, skier number 25 has to ski 3 loops. And they would make sure they did that. And the way I got involved was I worked at Williams Lake Hotel, which was
at
Williams
what?
Lake Hotel over in
Okay.
Rosendale.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. and Mrs. Williams' son was on the first United States biathlon team. The first time biathlon was in the Olympics, and I think it was 1964. And there was no money back then. Nobody heard about biathlon. And there was
No.
very little corporate sponsorship. So Mr. and Mrs. Williams used to house the biathlon team for a whole month in March at Williams Lake, and they had the cross-country ski trails there were great. I did a lot of cross-country skiing there, and they had a range. So they would let the team stay there and feed them and take care of them for the whole month, and they could just focus on training. So I was a waitress there, and that's how I put myself through college. And Mrs. Williams really liked me, and she called me one week and said to me when I was up at college, to ask me if I'd please come down and work for the weekend. And I'm like, oh, I have a lot of homework to do. She says, no, Dorna, I really want you to take care of this table. So I had the entire biathlon team that I took care of. And as a college girl, handsome guys, great opportunity. So I worked every weekend that month, and dated one of the guys and started working the different races. And then I traveled around with them when I could. And I sort of became, if you traveled around with them, you had to work the races. So I
Right.
became one of, less than 25 people in the country who knew how to run a biathlon race. So with the pre-Olympics, I went up to watch them, and the head of biathlon, U.S. Biathlon, said, what are you doing here? Where's your uniform? You're supposed to be working. I said, I'm not working. He said, oh, yes, you are. So I worked the pre-Olympics, and that automatically qualified me to work the Olympics. And so I worked the biathlon. I was an official for the 1980 Winter Olympics, and I was actually voted and picked to represent the biathlon venue, and I marched in the opening ceremonies.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God, it was so incredible.
What a blast.
It was such an amazing
And
experience.
so this is when you were still in college
Yeah, I had
or grad school?
just finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a spectacular gig.
It was a once in a lifetime. Boy, was I lucky.
Well, once in a lifetime. This has been a once in a lifetime interview, and we're out of time. I can't
Oh
even
my God.
believe it.
And I had so
It's
much
been
more
an
I brought
hour.
with you.
Will you come back someday?
I would love to.
Great. I'd love to have you. Dorna Schroeter, thanks for being here. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a fabulous weekend. Thanks for listening to Radio Free Rhinecliff.org.